love all the love that you're getting in the chat. Continue to send Peace Corps Benin some love in the chat. But we're going to turn things over to the VSPP, Benin's very first VSPP, Carolyn Brady, to share her experience participating.
Thank you, Kelsey, and thank you, Taibatu, for that wonderful overview of all the work that takes place independent of my work as a VSPP. So hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn. I am Benin's first friendly neighborhood VSPP, and I work to support Batonga's work specifically with their podcast that focuses on female empowerment and gender equity, Paix. So I want to talk to you all today a little bit about my service journey, both to Peace Corps in general, and then specifically to my work with Batonga. So it all started back in 2019 when I graduated from undergrad and decided to begin my first term of national service as an AmeriCorps state and national member in Portland, Maine. And I was really excited about serving as an elementary school support in both elementary and early middle in that location, and had applied to Peace Corps service in early 2020. And just before I'm actually convinced we were the last cohort to get accepted, before COVID started, we unfortunately received the news that our departure to Madagascar would be delayed indefinitely. So I thought to myself, stuck with the little pandemic, why don't we take this opportunity to continue serving? So I chose to then pursue a second term of service, this time as an AmeriCorps Vista member, and I worked with higher education institutions as a Vista, still in Maine, to support mental wellness systems that complemented their virtual learning platform everyone was shifting to during that time. Now, unfortunately, after both my first and second AmeriCorps year, we still did not have an update about departure to Madagascar. So in that sort of waiting period, since I was determined to go when given the opportunity, I started my graduate program at Georgetown University and moved down to DC in the fall of 2021, where I am currently getting my Master of Science in Foreign Service there. So I got through the first year of the program when I finally received that fateful call from Peace Corps headquarters when they said, Carolyn Brady, you're going to Madagascar. And so that departure was scheduled to take place in the fall of 2022. And my program, given the whole hullabaloo of COVID, graciously allowed me to take a leave of absence so I could pursue that opportunity to serve abroad. So was very fixated on the country, did not want to give up the opportunity to serve in Madagascar specifically because I was really focused on having the opportunity to also incorporate my French skills, something that ended up being incredibly useful, not only in my graduate studies and with my work with Batonga, but also with my future career goals. So I departed for Madagascar in the fall of 2022. That unfortunately, due to a security evacuation, I had to leave early. So in the spring of 2023, after only 8 months of service, 5 at site, and a cyclone closure of schools, I ended up back in the States, of course, earlier than expected, definitely heartbroken. But then, you know what? In case you can't tell by this journey, we are very committed to finding other opportunities to pursue our goals. And so I received the email about the opportunity to work on VSPP at the time in RPCV, but really just an opportunity to continue serving, and really was looking again to incorporate those French skills. So I looked specifically for opportunities that were taking place in Francophone countries, and Batonga and the PC Benin teams so really reflected all of the goals that I had sought to work on in my 2 years of service at Post in Madagascar. And I was really able to roll those over pretty seamlessly in terms of working on women empowerment issues in a Francophone country in ways that supported Peace Corps' larger mission of world peace and friendship. So that brought us to today. Now, I do still do this while also returning to my graduate degree. So I'm a full-time graduate student at Georgetown. And then also in that time frame, I'm currently serving as an AmeriCorps Vista leader with the National Forum for Black Public Educators. So I'm not sure if I'm the first person in history to be an AmeriCorps and Peace Corps member at the same time, but we have sort of checked all of the boxes in ways that could be checked. So that brought us to today and my work with Batonga, which is really exciting, which we're going to talk about next. So one of my favorite parts about working with Batonga and supporting their work, particularly with this podcast of Becheho, is that I've been able to support a lot of different aspects, not only of their past work, but of their work in other parts of their programming as well. So when I joined their team back in, I believe it was July, August of 2023, they had already completed season one. And so I was looking for opportunities to support season one, even though it had already come out, and found a good way to provide support that would help in where they were currently continuing to evolve season two so that they could take advantage of all those opportunities for growth and expansion. And so that takes a variety of shapes and forms. Early on, it was a lot of me just listening to the podcasts, reading about Batonga's strategic vision, both in the podcast specifically and in how the podcast related to their other programs, learning a lot about on the ground work in Benin, because of course, as a VSPP, we are not in the country. And so it did take sort of more cultural context in order for me to get what the goals that they were seeking to accomplish through this podcast could find opportunities to incorporate my support services, which was a wonderful learning opportunity. Really provided a great space for my counterpart and R to build that relationship that was specifically focused on the podcast. And then over time, after we had listened to all of season one and provided some feedback on that, both technical and sort of programmatically based, we sort of transitioned to finding opportunities to connect some of the in-person volunteers in country with some of the locations where Batonga hosts their leadership clubs. And so their leadership clubs take place every Saturday. And given that we have different Peace Corps volunteers located throughout the country, we tried to find all the locations where we had an in-person PCV and a Batonga Leadership Club, and try to find ways for them to be able to collaborate as well. So has been a really wonderful opportunity for me to work with our PCV Gen Ec leaders and find another way to sort of maximize our Peace Corps community globally between in-person, post, and myself. And then currently we are working on translating and building out season two. We've got some really exciting things in the works that Batonga will be working on moving into their second season with respect to further development, particularly in providing technical opportunities for all of these young women to build their skill sets and to grow. And we've really tried to make sure that that's incorporated in their programming goals. So that is all that we are currently working on at Batonga. Now, unfortunately, our counterpart or my counterpart and our Batonga representatives could not be here today, but luckily they were able to send us over some of their own words to speak to our relationship and the work that they are doing in this podcast. So let's take a listen.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Nadège, mentor pour Batonga. Dans le podcast précédemment réalisé par Batonga, j'ai été l'une des personnes interviewées, spécialement dans l'épisode 2, où j'ai raconté une histoire de ma vie. Pour moi, le podcast est un canal par lequel l'on peut passer pour passer un message très cher à soi. J'ai accepté participer, faire ce podcast parce que l'histoire que j'ai racontée est plus basée sur comment on aperçoit la femme, la fille en Afrique, précisément au Bénin chez moi. Donc pour moi, j'ai passé ce message, j'ai raconté l'histoire pour permettre à d'autres filles ou à d'autres femmes qui sont dans la même situation que moi, pour qu'elles puissent prendre courage et savoir que être une fille ou avoir donné naissance à une fille n'est pas une fatalité.
Hi everyone, my name is Wenceslas Jokwe. I'm the Director of Program Quality and Partnership, Men and Boys Engagement to our girl programming for Benin and Senegal. About the podcast Becheho, it was following the great success of Batonga's radio broadcast. We launched during the pandemic period. We have launched this podcast based solution that aims at promoting equality and equity in rural community where we are currently operating our programs. These podcasts are crucial, obviously, for us, for our targets, as they offer an alternative perspective and a unique approach to elevating the voices of these girls and women. About the partnership between Batonga and Peace Corps, Batonga's partnership with Peace Corps Benin has existed since 2013. Through this partnership, Peace Corps Benin's Scholarship Girl Program works to find motivated girls in selected communities through Benin and sponsor their enrollment in schools for 1 year, just 1 year. The program selects its girls on the basis of financial needs and scholastic achievement, targeting girls who are dedicated to their schooling but whose families may sacrifice education due to financial hardship. The program components were scholarships, volunteer mentorship, community service projects, but also annual girls conference, scholarship girl weekend that happened somewhere in Benin. So most of the time, this happened in Loposa. How the partnership supported the podcast in Batonga. This partnership has supported Batonga's podcast, but also its programs in many ways. First, they support us completing the production of the first session of Betty Ho podcast, contribute to dissemination and publication on online platforms, to play a role to support this podcast, contribute to provide feedback for the first session improvements, but also these partnerships help us to participate, the volunteer to participate in season 2 production, the whole process. And finally, we got support to have impact participants in other organization programs. That is so helpful. We really appreciate working with you, getting support from you, and we'll be really happy to pursue this partnership for the benefit of adolescent girls and young women in rural communities in Benin.
So that was just a little bit of a spotlight on our Benin partners and all of the great ways that this collaboration has really strengthened both our goals here at Peace Corps and Benin's programmatic goals as well. So it's really been an honor and a privilege to be a part of that collaboration. So what happens now? Well, that's a very good question. I'm not sure you were asking, but I am going to answer it. We, of course, have the continuation of Becheho. So season 2 is on the horizon. We have decided, and by we, I mean Batonga, in addition to our support and partnership, have decided to try to find as many ways as possible to incorporate the technical programming opportunities for growth and learning for all of these young women. So they will be taking a lot of the stories that we heard in season 1, particularly that of Nadej and some of our other main characters in terms of how they're featured, and they will be transforming them into both stationary cartoons and then moving on to animated versions. So really finding as many ways as possible to provide those technical opportunities for learning and growth. Season 2 will start by being produced and released at the end of this month, and they will roll out those cartoon and animated versions subsequently, which is very exciting. So we are looking forward to that. Season 1 is currently available online, as was posted in the chat. They have 8 episodes, so you can go listen to all of those, and they are truly a treat. They're all about 10 minutes long, so a good little coffee break, if you will. Batonga will also be expanding their podcast to their Senegal location. So as Angelique Kidjo is Beninese, Benin was obviously the first of their locations to pilot this programming, but they will be expanding to their Senegal location to offer a similar model in terms of finding ways to highlight the stories of rural young women and bring those stories both to the forefront, but also in ways where we can provide learning opportunities to those young women as well. So all of our friends at PC Senegal, hopefully you will have a great opportunity to be a part of this beautiful collaboration. And that is really just the beginning. You know, we have our ongoing work with our in-country volunteers. In just about 2 weeks, we will have a meeting of our in-country volunteers and our Gen Ec club leaders with some of the leaders of the leadership clubs. So they will all be getting together in different geographic areas around the country, which is very exciting. And so we're really just looking forward to seeing all of the growth that is yet to come from this partnership, which is honestly just such a joy to see how much it has grown, blossomed, and developed since we were able to start in this collective collaboration. Now, moving on to me, I will be graduating from Georgetown this May. So, and with that will also sort of come the conclusion of my time of service as a Vista leader. My most recent conversation with the director of AmeriCorps was, okay, Carolyn, this would be a great time for you to transition into the next step in the development world. So that is exactly what we're going to do, taking Mr. Michael's advice. And then I am really excited to find opportunities to return to the field. So I've been able to do that a little bit in Madagascar, virtually with Benin right now, which has been such a joy, but really my heart is wed to the opportunities to be engaged in these types of missions in the field. And so fingers crossed, I will be able to take advantage of that, particularly in the Africa region. Would love post my time as a VSPP to also be able to continue just volunteering with Batonga in a private capacity, as I know that they have so many great opportunities to take advantage of all that people want to give to their mission and their work. And so we are exploring all opportunities to make sure that this great work continues to succeed. So very, very exciting. So that's what's next for me. That's what's next for Batonga. And I believe I will now pass it back to Kelsey.
Yeah,